the conversation forward. We've got Deven Choksey as well joining in on the show right now. Deven, hi, afternoon. After that bit of an aberration on Tuesday, it seems pretty great going actually. We are above the 20,200 mark and not such a bout of profit taking besides Tuesday, even within the broader end of the market. Yes, the large caps may have led the rally this week, but you're not seeing any serious damage so far within the broader end of the market. That's the small and the mid caps. What's your take on how, or rather, how one should be approaching, the mid and small cap holdings in one's portfolio now?
So good afternoon, Aisha. Well, on one side, we have the compelling reasons for some of the large cap companies to buy into the portfolio because of, I think, the languishing valuations that they are putting currently and the kind of opportunity that they are providing at this point of time. I think they are probably, becoming a more better choice, than the some of the mid and the small caps. So preference is definitely going towards large caps, even though they generate relatively smaller percentage of return. I think they still remain better of the lot, largely because of the margin of safety that they provide at the current levels. On the other side, the medium small cap companies are purely driven by the liquidity infused rally into the system. A new class of traders have entered into the market in last few quarters, and they are the ones who are the HNI traders. They typically buy the stocks based on the available liquidity in the market, and accordingly the stock prices goes up because of the lack of depth of the stocks in the marketplace. So to a greater extent, I think the mid cap and small cap companies rally is driven largely because of the higher amount of money getting into these stocks on a comparatively smaller base of equity. That is the first point. The second point is that I think the systematically group of people would probably participate into this activity. So as a result of which I think the rally becomes more prolonged rally into this particular situation. And I think that's the reason for which we are seeing a relatively higher valuation, disproportionate rally into the stock prices. And at the same time, I think carrying slightly higher risk compared to what their potential underlying business potential is, because of the stretch valuation that they have. One will have to be very selective in this kind of a market into the mid and small caps. Underlying story remains intact as far as the growth potential is concerned. But if you discount the stock price 2 years in advance, then possibly in between you are going to have the jerks, or maybe the margin of safety is not around, so you may have a sharp fall also into those stocks. So that is a word of caution coming out for the investors as well.
Sure, Deven, but talk to us about a few stock ideas, the areas where you're still being selective and finding value.
Well, I think opportunities are there in the areas of railways, of course, but I think more importantly, I think some of the companies which are participating into the larger growth program, say for example, the companies which are rollout for the 5G network. In that, some of the companies which are basically having the EMS facilities, there they have got relatively better amount of outlook to talk about. Companies which are into the components and the supply for the fiber optics and the networking, there also I think they are having relatively better amount of opportunity to talk about. We also like some of the mid-cap companies which are basically into the area of hospitality business, event management business, where the growth program is relatively more conducive. And also some of the automobile ancillary component companies, which are relatively looking more stable, given the kind of transition which is happening into EV, as well as in the ICE engine, the growth program that we are seeing, particularly in the commercial vehicle space. So in respective areas where some of the mid-cap companies are getting connected to some of the larger companies, we find opportunities there into. Unfortunately, due to the restrictions, I cannot spell out those names on the screen. That is my limitation.
Sure, point taken at that. Let's hear out one of the most important voices in the state of the economy, none other than Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, in conversation with Times Now's Navika Kumar, talking about not just the state of the economy, but the more pressing issue, that's inflation.
We are trying to make sure that the supply side difficulties are handled. And I'm not indifferent to it. We are making sure that improved supplies reach people, and you saw tomatoes have already crashed to the other end, where the farmers are not even getting their input costs back. So there are mismatches, supply side mismatches, there is a group of ministers who look at it almost alternative days to make sure that commodities reach. And at that time too, I stood up in the parliament to answer that for tomatoes, we are procuring from Kolar and some tomato growing areas and importing from Nepal and immediately spreading. 200 rupees subsidy was given even before for all the Ujjwala consumers.
Is that all? Or do you have some more love that is likely to come out in the next few weeks?
75 lakh new connections.
That was part of the same announcement.
Yes.
Any more announcements?
Well, we made an announcement, see how it is working out, particularly for perishable commodities. We have made sure that supply side problems are addressed. There is a group of ministers which looks into it in detail. Rice and wheat have been released from Food Corporation of India go down so that market prices come down. Efforts are being made to make sure inflation is contained. And for those who wanted lesser rate of tax to pay, income tax, I've brought in a second parallel system through which you pay lesser tax. And in that, people said standard direction is not being given and therefore it is still not attractive. I brought that in. So now, if you're earning approximately 60,000 rupees, you don't pay any tax at all. For 7 lakh odd, we don't charge any tax. So reduction of income tax has happened.
Okay, so that's the finance minister talking about the measures that have been taken both in terms of stemming the inflation as well as on personal taxation as well. But just shifting focus away from that, and Deven, I wanted your sense regarding the IPOs that are underway. Yatra has seen a subscription of around 0.05 times, Samhi Hotel 0.05 times, Zaggle, which is the fintech player, has seen subscription of 0.19 time right now. It's only RR Kabul, which is of course the last day of the subscription, which has seen almost 3.72 kind of interest right now. Within the names which are open right now in the primary market, have you done a deep dive on any name you want to recommend?
Anisha, at this point of time, I think we are still not, putting the effort behind these companies. I think we would like further information to come to us before we get into these companies. At this point of time, we are not having coverage.
Point taken. That's the word coming in on IPO that right now, of course, they haven't worked on quite a few of these names, so not making any recommendations. But yes, of late, we have seen a lot of action in the primary market. And talking about the action in the secondary market, yes, that flow impact was there on HDFC Bank. Almost 4,500 crore worth of block deals happened. We saw a bit of spike then. From there, it has cooled off yet again. So that pretty much move as far as the FTSE and the Sensex readjustment have panned out in terms of the market as well. What other sectors and stocks which are buzzing around? FACT or FACT from the fertilizer space has seen a big spike. You also have Triveni Turbine, which is doing quite well for itself. In fact, wanted the take of Nuresh as well in terms of some of these counters which are buzzing around. I know the volumes are on the lower side, but still Mazgaon Dock, Garden Reach, even these names like Triveni Turbine. Do you look at any of these names, Nuresh?
So the other names like Mazgaon Dock, GRSC have moved way too much to actually be participating right now, or rather one should be looking to book profits. But Triveni Turbines is interesting. The stock has consolidated for the last 4 months between roughly 370 to 430 on the upper end. Quite a few attempts around 420, 430 mark, high institutional holdings here. The stock has given a breakout now of 420, 430. This could make a dash towards 480 to 500 in the short term. This looks promising. The rest of the names, one could be better off booking profits.
Okay, book profits in rest of the names, but separately what else is happening is of course autos and IT. Within auto itself, Deven, where does your preference lie? Is it now tilting towards two-wheelers a lot more versus PV, and that entire SUV rush has already panned out and factored in?
I think the two-wheelers are largely, driven by the festive demand anticipation. And that's where probably the likes of Bajaj Auto and all have scaled up significantly in the last couple of days. I would think that the two-wheelers, probably the worst is behind them. Even on the export front, the things are looking relatively more stable than ever before. And that's where probably a company like Bajaj Auto would have relatively better time to talk about. So I think that remains as a continued journey. I would think so. However, the stronger preference would remain in the auto space with the commercial vehicles. The commercial vehicles companies largely driven by the higher amount of demand due to the infrastructure spending due to the industry expansion and the logistic demand that we are having. Along with that, this scrappage policy also, I think, is resulting into some renewed demand coming in from the commercial vehicle space. So I think these are the companies where probably I think one could see at least 3 years of clear visibility of higher or incremental demand coming in because of the requirements which will come up because of whatever I have just now mentioned. So that is where we believe, I think, is an opportunity at this point of time.
Okay, that's the take coming in on some segments of the market. We were just chatting about HDFC Bank. Of course, everyone's extremely enthused about HDFC Bank. But look at what's happening to some of the HDFC group companies as well. I was just looking at the charts of HDFC AMC, and that's also managed to clock in a life high for itself. Kunal, anything out of the HDFC group that you're mapping outside of HDFC Bank?
So HDFC Life is looking attractive. That's a stock which I think from the insurance pack has managed to recover. So from February lows or I think post-budget, there was a very sharp sell-off for HDFC Life as compared to most of the other insurance stocks. I think the stock had fallen down to as much as 460 post-budget. And then from there, it started to get into a recovery phase. So it's almost like a V-shaped recovery. First, breaking past about 620 levels for HDFC Life. That level was taken out in the month of June. And post that, even with a retracement or a correction from the 700 levels, that 620 is acted as a major support for HDFC Life. So I think traders can hold on to the long positions or maybe build fresh longs at current levels. 620 could be a formidable support for the stock. If it doesn't break below this level on a weekly basis, then I think we could be looking at 700, 750 plus as well for HDFC Life.
Okay, so that's the other stock from the HDFC group that Kunal wants to talk about. That's HDFC Life. But shifting focus, and it's all about Amchi Mumbai. The word is synonymous with big dreams, Bollywood, and the iconic red double-decker buses. Sadly, however, Mumbai is bidding goodbye to these double-decker buses. These buses have been an integral part of the city's public transport system for more than 8 decades now. The open-deck double-decker buses have served as sightseeing buses for tourists since the 1990s and have also played a significant role in big Bollywood dramas. Since it is all set to bid goodbye, Shanse, my colleague Shushti, is here with this report. Okay, so those were some iconic visuals. I don't think I've actually managed to travel a lot in double-deckers. Have you?
No.
I think that's the reason, because we are not the original Mumbai peoples. What about you?
I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. In my college days, definitely, yes.
I think we should book a ticket today itself and maybe try and take a ride, because we
I think
have
the
never
last
had.
one's already left, right?
Should we also leave now? Just call it the day.
Yeah, just
10
a few
minutes
more
left.
minutes and then you can, Anisha.
I wish
But
it was sooner.
I've always found them very fascinating because Delhi never had these double-decker buses, but yeah, never got the opportunity. But I'm sure they would have new EV double-decker buses maybe in the future.
Maybe we'll try kind of chugging along with some of those futuristic EV double-decker buses. But yes, something that I'm sure a large part of Mumbaikars can associate themselves with. But that was about double-decker. Deven, have they been part of your life as well?
Of course, I think long back in school days, in those days, I think so. We're talking about 40 years back or 45 years back journey, I think, when we used to travel in double-decker bus. But since then, I think haven't got that much of an opportunity to travel.
But now is the time to probably play that opportunity through the likes of Electra, Green Tech, JBM Auto, because these are the guys who are making commercial vehicles, if not, pure buses, as far as EVs go.
Yes, certainly. I think that sounds, I think, really very appealing to, and visually, I think, very appealing to the eyes also. So definitely, I think, given an opportunity, one could take a ride into it.